part of the reason why our society is failing is because the lack of sexual discipline on men's part. You have an adult entertainment industry that is grossing $5 to $6 billion a year. So, strip clubs, the pornography industry, OnlyFans, prostitutes, everybody's making a killing off of men's lack of sexual discipline and control. So why not just keep it inside your body and enrich yourself? Welcome to Gold Pill. This is Gold Pill 222, YouTube channel where we're going to talk about sexuality, semen retention, relationships, sex, all kind of good stuff concerning our sexual nature and how to improve it so we can be the best version of ourselves. Today, we're going to start off with what is semen retention. Episode 1, what is semen retention? So, semen retention is a sacred practice. It comes from the highest form of spirituality called renunciation. So semen retention is coming from Taoism, the Ayurvedic tradition, Gnosticism, and pretty much most to all forms of mysticism, which is the highest form of spirituality, which is renunciation. So anytime you're studying renunciation, which is basically when an individual completely devotes their life to God, they also sacrifice their sexual nature, meaning they take no wife, they have no sex, no porn, masturbation, nothing. They allow the energy to stay in their body and they utilize it for spiritual purposes to become the very best version of themselves as devotees to the divine God, creator, whatever you want to call it. So that is where semen retention is coming from, renunciation. So I would describe 4 levels of semen retention. With renunciation, semen retention is practiced just as what I told you, to help the individual become the best version of themselves. And it is part of renunciation. When you take up renunciation, you renounce having a family, you renounce friends, you renounce work, you renounce cursing, you renounce certain foods, and you renounce your sexuality as well as a couple other things. But you renounce many things that basically would be like a distraction to you, and you devote your life completely to God, the divine, the universe, the creator, whatever you want to call it. So that would be the primary way that semen retention is done. The second way semen retention is done is by those who are initiated. Basically, you learn from the sages and certain traditions, for example, like Taoism, they practice the microcosmic orbit to where you have sex, right? And you retain the sexual energy in your body, so you can orgasm without ejaculating. Or you just maybe you ejaculate on a cycle once every 3 weeks, once every week, or once every month, or whatever is most healthy and conducive for you as a man. But you don't get into this wasteful sexual nature where you just ejaculating all the time, because it's not good for your body, it's not good for your brain, it's not good for your spirituality. So that would be the second form that semen retention is practiced, to where you're initiated, of course, and you have sex, but you retain the sexual energy into your body and you circulate it back out into your body. Typically, sperm is manufactured not just in your testicles, but the energy pulls from your organs and your brain to make the sperm. So when you retain that sexual energy, you do certain exercises to return that sexual energy back into your organs and into your brain. So that would be the second way that it's practiced. The third way you can practice semen retention, which is now we're getting into the more secular way that we know, would be celibacy. You are not initiated, you don't know anything, you don't want to be a renunciate, no one has taught you about the microcosmic orbit, about Kundalini yoga or different exercises. So now you are just gonna abstain from sex until you meet the right woman and marry her. Marry that gal. Right? So that's the third way I would describe that semen retention is practiced. And of course, the fourth way is just complete abstinence. You have a feeling that all your sexual decisions will be deviant. So therefore, to avoid deviance, you just practice complete abstinence and you just keep the sexual energy into your body. This nowadays has been popularized as NoFap, which is completely fine. I am completely pro men practicing semen retention as a way to exercise sexual self-discipline, because that is what society needs. That is what men need. We need men to be manlier. And one of the primary ways is, of course, to retain your sexual energy. But the only thing is, when you get people just casually talking about semen retention, just because you're a doctor or a lawyer or a chemist doesn't mean you know about semen retention. This is a very high level sacred tradition. Like, if you don't know about spirituality and religion, you really wouldn't know about semen retention. It's dispensed from the lips of the sages and the monks, and then the regular people get to partake in it. But make no mistake, they definitely said, okay, they may practice this now, and now it has rolled over into our society. And this is a time especially where men need to step up and be manlier. So what better way than to keep sexual energy and testosterone in your body? So yeah, those are the 4 primary ways that semen retention is practiced. So yeah, that's semen retention. Now, what you have to understand is that sexual energy is very potent. Sexual energy would almost represent the yang, and the spiritual energy represents the yin. Like, it's one of the most potent forms of energy on the planet. And so what you have to understand is that when you make the conscious decision to hold it in your body, or to convert it back into life essence, to withhold into your body, it actually becomes something else, something amazing. That creative energy you can use to reach your goals, you can use to outlet on your passions, you can use to, it's creative energy, you can use it to create. We only understand sexual energy as something we gain pleasure from, but it's creative energy. And just like raw materials, or raw creative energy can be used to create pretty much whatever you want. So this is why semen retention is so important. It isn't just the practice you want to use, for just sexual discipline. If you're wise enough, you can actually learn how to convert and transfer that sexual energy into other areas of yourself to improve other areas of your life. And you could almost say that part of the reason why our society is failing is because the lack of sexual discipline on men's part. You have an adult entertainment industry that is grossing $5 to $6 billion a year. So, strip clubs, the pornography industry, OnlyFans, prostitutes, everybody's making a killing off of men's lack of sexual discipline and control. So why not just keep it inside your body and enrich yourself? You got to understand, if the money isn't coming out of you anymore because of your lack of sexual discipline, what are the possibilities? So, all right, next video, I'll talk about the benefits of semen retention and why you should be doing semen retention. If I can't go into that now, I had to first start off with what semen retention is, because too many people are over opinionated about semen retention. Again, it doesn't matter if you've been a doctor for 20, 30 years. Semen retention comes from a religious tradition, from a very spiritual tradition. So unless you are very spiritual, unless you have been studying spirituality and religions of the highest levels, you're not gonna know about semen retention. You could be you could be a lawyer for 30 years. You can come into this lane, you're a child again. Okay? Just like I've been studying different things and I know nothing about medicine. I can never challenge anybody about that. So now we're gonna get later, the next videos will be about the benefits of semen retention and why all men should practice semen retention. Not just because you wanna achieve your goals, not just because you wanna be more spiritual, but because it is the primary way in which you can become the better version of yourself and exercise sexual self-discipline, which is exactly what our society needs. For now, if you guys are interested in practicing semen retention, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace. Have a good day.